Welcome to this edition of Morgan the Asked For podcast, November 12th, Wednesday night, 9:02. We're on pretty close to 9 o'clock here. Thanks for joining us. Another week. The name of this, I always have to name it for this, but I don't know how I'm going to name it for certain. But hope is lost, or hope is something crushed, or hope is kicked, or I'm going to do something to that effect because what happened in Iowa City last Saturday night, evening, not really night, I guess it was more evening. But we'll get to that in a second. But this week has been a Midwesterners, and this you'll appreciate this, Trevor. I know you're not in the Midwest and you don't live here anymore. But this week, and I don't know how much you get into this, but November 10th, so on Monday, was the 50th anniversary of the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Do you know anything about that, Trev? Or know
a little,
anything?
yeah.
Okay. So, well, I'm obsessed with it. I like the song. Like I listen to it like randomly on a random Wednesday night on YouTube. I'll play the video. I mean, so, and obviously on Monday was the 50th anniversary. So it was kind of a big deal. It was the 50th anniversary. I've been to Duluth, Superior, Wisconsin, where it took off. I have not been over to the Michigan side where it wrecked. But, being out in the middle of Lake Superior a couple years ago fishing, being there a few times, driving along the lake and everything, and just how big, and you hear the stats, is 10% of the world's fresh water in that lake and how big it is and everything. It's just kind of crazy. And it's amazing on algorithms and what it is. Like my TikTok and Instagram and everything was just Edmund Fitzgerald stuff on Monday and even Tuesday some. Just you scroll and it was just funny and just, all the memes, all the everything, playing the songs and actually Turnpike Troubadours, who I really, really like, and I think you do as well, was in Cleveland on Saturday night before, and they played the song just, so obviously I have Turnpike on music I listen to, so it's coming up. And then with the Edmund Fitzgerald. So everything was Edmund Fitzgerald. And then last night in Iowa and Minnesota and stuff was a huge Northern Lights deal. And I don't know. So then today, every Snapchat, every Facebook, everything that you saw was about the Northern Lights. And so it's just Midwesterners, greatest things ever. You're sitting in your yard, you're listening, in your driveway, looking at the lights, listening to the Edmund Fitzgerald. It's just a Midwestern's dream right now.
Yeah, I saw the videos of people doing the Edmund Fitzgerald, and then of course I've seen all the Snapchats and the pictures online. Casey Musgraves uploaded a Instagram video today.
Okay,
she's like, please keep sending more pictures of the Northern Lights. She's like, I couldn't give a blank. She was making fun of everybody. So yeah, in Colorado Springs we couldn't see them for some reason, but up in Denver and some other parts of Colorado you could. But yeah, my all my social media was with pictures, of course, like everybody's was.
Yeah, it's just crazy, and how your algorithm just reads you and sees everything you do, and here's what you talk about. It's just amazing. You say one thing, and then you go on YouTube or you go on something, and that's the next ad you see. I mean, it's a little bit crazy and freaky.
I'm checking Instagram right now to see if anything's popping up.
Yeah, it probably will if you really went and looked. So. Nope, I just wanted to get those a couple things out of the way there. But
well, speaking of anniversaries or halfway points or dates, I think it was either Monday or Tuesday is officially the halfway point. We're getting into college football now.
Yes. Yep.
The two teams that will play in the national title, Monday or Tuesday, was officially the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about. I mean, honestly, it feels like we've been playing football now. Iowa State played a week earlier than most. So we have been in it an extra week or so. But I did hear that. I can't remember what show talked about that, but I did hear that. I was watching McAfee, or maybe it might have been Josh Pate, actually.
I think it was Pate where I got it.
Yeah, I think that I was watching him too. I think it was Pate that was talking about that. And he's really good. He's kind of under the radar a little bit, but I do like him. He's a big Iowa State Matt Campbell guy too, so that doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah, he's my favorite to listen to as far as college football. Him and Joel Klatt. Pate's really blown up his YouTube and everything. I would say in the last year he's really gotten a lot more popular. So his show is good too. His ads are quick. He does one little quick one with Quick Trip, and it's he's really knowledgeable.
Yeah, he's good. But yeah, it is. But it is January 19th will be the championship. And what's crazy is most teams have 2 games left, at most 3. But then you have the conference championship games, and you have 10 days off before the first round, and then it's a week, and then it's another week, and then it's a couple weeks. I mean, it's just, it spreads out so much. That's the problem with it, and it's not going to get any better because, as we talk about, playoffs going to get bigger and bigger. Now, I do think they will maybe condense it a little bit, not have 2 weeks in between a game. It's just going to be a week. Hopefully they get rid of the championship games when it goes to 16 or 24 because all those teams are going to be in it anyway. But that's a whole different discussion. But yeah, January 19th is a championship game. That's another, I'm sure it's a Monday night. I don't know that for sure, but I'm assuming it's a Monday night because college loves to play things on Monday night, not on Saturday nights. No one wants to do anything on Saturday nights, which I do understand. But again, that's a different argument. So people can get together and have fun and, middle of January in Iowa, maybe not so much, but have a garage party, or you got to go to the basement or something, have a party. If it was Saturday night, Monday night, it's just hard to do. But let's get into college football. Let's talk about the Hawks. I think that's the most pressing, discussion and just topic that we have for this week. They gave it everything they had. They were in it. The Hawkeyes are all 3 losses this year are in last minute or so, giving up a big play to Indiana, and then you had a chance and didn't get it done, and then obviously a last minute field goal against Iowa State, and then the last seconds field goal. You had one more play, but not really. You had last second field goal against Oregon. So it's different than when they were getting beat 42-3 by Michigan in the Big Ten title games. But it still is 0 for the last 12 against ranked teams, and they still can't get it done against the top-notch teams in the Big Ten and even Iowa State when they are ranked the last few years.
Yeah, for the most part, I was pretty happy with the game. Yeah. I thought Tim Lester called a really good game plan, actually. I thought the announcers I just thought they were flat out wrong after Gronowski, I think, started 0 for 3 passing. I think he was 10 of 15 after that. I thought he was fine after those first few passes. Yep. Again, we're going to Iowa quarterback standards here. I thought he was pretty good, actually, for the most part. Iowa lives in the margins in these games. They can't make mistakes, and typically they don't. But the first 2 punts, you had the bad snaps. Got the safety, which at the time the safety was a blessing, of course.
Yeah, I'd say really bad, but overall only being down 2-0 after those 2 bad snaps. Best case scenario, almost. I mean, obviously 0, but really best case scenario.
Yeah, and that morning, the over/under on that game kept going up for some reason, and I made my biggest bet of the college football season on the under of that game. And when that safety happened, when it was 2-0, it was like an omen. I'm like, yep. This is going under. This is going to be one of those weird scores. I was texting some friends in Idaho. They're Oregon fans. They're watching the game, and when that was 2-0, I said, "This is going to end in some weird Iowa score. Just watch." Of course, it did. And then the Weejan fumble. If either one of those 2 plays doesn't happen, who knows how the game plays out when those plays change. But you'd have to feel like Iowa could have got the job done. The 2-point conversion, just a little bit short on that, and scoring that touchdown was great, but I knew when we didn't get that 2-pointer, I was like, I think they're going to go down and score because their running game, they did an excellent job against Iowa's defense. They ran the ball really well, and I was like, I know they're going to get down the field. Now how close are they going to get? I don't know, but I was pretty confident that Oregon was at least going to get a attempt of a field goal. Unfortunately, they got a pretty easy one, distance-wise. So it's never easy for a kicker to hit a game winner, of course, but they got about 15 yards at least closer than I would have preferred.
It was, in perfect weather conditions, it was a chip shot. Now, snap, hold, kick with those weather conditions is never a gimme. But you're 100% right. 15 yards closer than you would have wanted that kick to be. If he'd have kicked a 50-yarder to win it, then tip your hat to him. That's a heck of a kick. Just like Stevens. What was Stevens' 52 yards or 54 yards
Mhm.
when he made. That's a great kick in those conditions. Yeah, I mean, that is the surprising part. Usually Iowa doesn't go down and make that touchdown and get that touchdown to take the lead. Usually something happens where they settle for a field goal, where it's tied up, or what, depending on how the score is, but they can't take the lead there. And if they do, then their defense holds. But on this day, Oregon had every answer. Great throw, great catch. Hall had good coverage, is what it is. Sometimes just they made the play. They have really good players, and they made the plays. But Iowa couldn't stop their run game all day, and that was a little bit surprising to me.
Yeah, I haven't seen Iowa get pushed around like that in quite a while against the run. So it was a little surprising. Again, Hall's coverage there was great. That's why you see Moore as projected a first-round quarterback. Yep. We're going to get into my mock draft a little bit later. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But Oregon's loaded with talent, and Oregon beat Iowa at their own game, and that was impressive to see on the road in Kinnick in the weather. Oregon came in and played an Iowa game and just played a little bit better. They made the plays at the end, but I don't know. Overall, I really wasn't that upset. Again, Iowa lives in the margins when they do win these games. And you look at the bad snap on the punt and the Weegan fumble. If we could have just had one of those go differently, maybe it's a different outcome.
Right. You don't, there really are no moral victories, but that was as close to a moral victory as you could ask for. You had a chance. That's all you want. Like you said, you live in the margins. Iowa State does the same thing. We're going to talk about them here in a few minutes. And they made the plays this week. They finally did. After 4 straight weeks of not making a play, they forced the turnover and returned the punt. So they won the football game. Other than that, it's the same old, same old. I was really impressed with Dan Lanning as well. He walked in to the press room, and it might have been his first comment. He goes, well, this is a Big Ten game, or this is what the Big Ten is. And I think that's why Oregon has had success going to the Big Ten. He's okay with doing that. He'll play anyway. You think of Oregon and you think of Chip Kelly scoring, running a play every 20 seconds and high flying, doing whatever they want with Mariota and whoever. But that's not how Dan Lanning plays. Dan Lanning understands they're really good up front. They are run first. Now, they've got the athletes to throw it if they need to. And when the play needs to be made, just like they did, they made it. But they want to run the football. And that's where last year was, Ohio State's really good. And Ohio State, I think, probably is going to win it again. One, they know how to do it, already done it. And I think just like a lot of things, once you get that first one, I think it could come in bunches now for Ohio State. They've got it going. But Oregon is set up to make a run. I think they're really, really good.
Yeah, Dan Lanning to me is an easy coach to root for outside of Kirk Ferentz. He's one of the easier coaches to root for in the Big Ten, in my opinion. I like him. And Oregon's got first-round talent on offense and defensive line, the big guys that they were ready to come to the Big Ten. USC, I don't know about that. We'll talk about that matchup briefly. But, speaking of Iowa, and I haven't gone back through the history, but this feels like it's definitely in the argument and maybe the best 6-3 Iowa team maybe ever under Kirk Ferentz through 9 games. It's got to be right up there. And the thing that the biggest disappointment, though, is Gronowski's gone after the year. Yeah, that's the thing that sucks because he's really a threat in this Iowa offense with his running capability, and he's a decent enough passer. The NCAA, isn't there a way Iowa could just say, screw the NCAA, we'll give you a few more $1 million and just play and see what happens?
I don't know. Overall, yes. NCAA loses every lawsuit they get or just says, heck with it, and go ahead. I don't disagree with you. And I believe we talked about this a few weeks ago, but I truly think that Gronowski was still hurt at the beginning of the year and he wasn't ready or just had been off so long that he was not ready. He wasn't able to practice enough or was still kind of hurt. But after those first couple games, he's really, really good. And that's why he's got the most wins in college football history at the Division I level. Yeah, if he could come back one more year, who knows what Iowa's going to do for the quarter. They're essentially on a year-to-year quarterback basis. They're just going to go pay for a quarterback. That's kind of what they're in right now. But yeah,
did get a good commit out of Kaysville, Utah during the game.
Yeah.
He was supposed to go to Boise State, so I think he's like 6'4", 6'5", 210. I don't know much about him. Of course, I don't pay attention to high school recruiting. That's a little bit more up your alley. But my biggest question is, can he run? If he's mobile, right. I'll be happy, or at least, I'll be optimistic. And, before we get to Iowa State, I was obviously on the road at USC this coming Saturday. They're 6.5-point underdogs. Now, Kirk Ferentz and Iowa do struggle out west. Mm-hmm. The thing about USC, though, is I think Iowa can push them around. USC is actually pretty decent at running the ball. So if Iowa gives up the run like they did against Oregon, they'll probably lose the game. If Iowa can do better against the run, I think Iowa's got a real chance. Maybe Vegas is thinking that Iowa's going to, now that the playoffs are out of the mix, they're going to let down a little bit. I don't see that with this team necessarily. I think I would take Iowa plus 6.5 here.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But I understand Kirk Ferentz going west in the Big Ten, outside of the Big Ten, doesn't matter. They go west, except for when they played USC in the Holiday Bowl or whatever bowl that was out west several years ago. It's just been a total disaster. Now, they have all came out and said that they're doing it different this year. It's not like last year at UCLA. But USC is a lot better team than UCLA is. USC, in the big picture, still has a chance. They are kind of with Iowa until Iowa lost. If they win, they have a chance to get in the playoffs. So, and Lincoln Riley needs that. Lincoln Riley needs that. Kind of get back Dan Lanning and Lincoln Riley. Any chance those two guys are leaving and heading south to the Southeastern Conference?
I think there's more of a chance they're leaving for the league above them, the NFL. Okay. But there's Josh Pate thinks there's a lot of names out there that are secretly being talked about in NFL discussions right now that haven't been released yet. So it's funny you mentioned that because I was just listening to that about an hour ago. He said there's some names out there that people would be a little surprised about looking at NFL jobs. So maybe those are two names. I know Lincoln's both of them have been rumored, but I don't know. I think Dan Lanning's got a pretty good thing going in Oregon. In the money that they have there. And again, it's the same thing we talked about. If Nick Saban would have gone to Penn State, for sure all you have to do is finish top 3 in the Big Ten to get to the playoff every year. Some years, if you're 4th, you get in. So if I was Dan Lanning, I don't know if I would leave necessarily for LSU or Florida. He did coach down there a little bit in that area, but I think he stays. Lincoln, this is a pivotal game for Lincoln Riley. It's been a little underwhelming since he's been at USC. So if he gets this win, that obviously sets up a big game against Oregon for a chance to fight your way into the playoff. But I could see Lincoln Riley moving before Dan Lanning.
Do you think he'd go to the NFL or he'd go to LSU if they had called?
I think he'd consider both. If they lose to Iowa, this could be a little bit of a breaking point for him there, because it really, they had the 1 year of Caleb Williams, and then it's been a little underwhelming ever since then.
Yeah, and he's getting paid $13 million a year. He was one of the first guys that got the big double, tens of $1 million a year, not just 7 or 8. But it's a good job if you can get it, and he's done just enough. But USC is one of those as well. They got to be. They're just like Oregon. You're finishing the 3-4 spot. You got a chance every year, and that's where they expect to be. And I think with USC being in the Big Ten in the long run, whether it's Lincoln Riley or the new coach, you can, if you just go you shore up the offense and defensive line, which in California you should be able to do. You can get a lot of those Samoans and, Polynesian players that Oregon has got, that Utah's got, that BYU's got, that USC has got historically. You can win a lot of football games, and you can win the Big Ten with that.
Yeah, there's some people that follow the USC program that, they're getting a lot of the athletic players and the quarterbacks, defensive backs, receivers, running backs. They're fine there. It's the offense and defensive linemen that they haven't recruited well in the state, and they haven't recruited well out of the state. They've lost some of the linemen to other places, like you mentioned, Oregon, Utah, the Southeast. It doesn't matter where. So that's really the question. If Lincoln Riley can get that, the lineman shirt up on both sides of the ball, he's probably going to have some success there. But USC, their historic program, one of the best of all time. I've heard their money's a little bit tighter than most people would expect, being in the LA market. So, maybe that'll change here over time. But yeah, this is a pivotal game for Lincoln Riley. If Iowa does pull the upset here, his seat's going to get very hot, I would say. I don't know if they're going to fire him because of the buyout. I'm not saying that, but there's going to be a lot of discussions about him underwhelming.
Right, and just almost better for everybody involved if he just moves on. You don't have to fire him, but they're not going to be sad to see him go either.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He really needs to make the playoffs this year, and I know we're going to get into that a little bit, but before we switch to Michigan or Iowa State, Michigan, I believe if they went out, they go to the Big Ten championship.
Yep.
They could win the Big Ten. That would throw a wrinkle into everything because they'd probably play Indiana. So then those two would be in. Ohio State would for sure be in because they'd only have one loss.
Yep.
And then does Oregon get in with one loss too as well? It's Michigan could throw a wrench in this whole thing. I don't think I think Ohio State's going to finally get it done this year. I kind of jumped ahead of the playoff bracket discussion there.
Right. Well, I agree though, but you would have thought that last year, and then Michigan goes in and wins. So, I think if Michigan beats Ohio State, is people going to call for Ryan Day's job again?
They better wait. They better wait till after the playoff in case they go win a second one back.
But they are going to want it. I mean, they can't stand losing to Michigan. They would rather beat Michigan than win the national championship. I swear.
Well, I told you I've got some coworkers that are Ohio State fans, and Iowa or Iowa State, we'd be a 10 out of 10 if we won a national title.
Yeah, you could lose to, Iowa State goes one loss, lose to Iowa, but win the national championship. Who cares?
Right.
And same thing for Iowa. I promise you, you lose one game and you win the national title, and it's Iowa State. Who cares? Well, Michigan and Ohio State, I think it might be the other way around.
Yeah, like I said, we'd be a 10 out of 10 on the ecstatic scale. They're probably like an 8 out of 10. There's still a little bit of missing something. So yeah, that's looking a little bit ahead at the playoff bracket. But yeah, let's get into Iowa State because they finally ended the losing streak. I didn't get to watch any of the game. I did see the tight end had a score. Then we had a special teams touchdown, I believe. I'll kind of let you go on Iowa State a little bit.
Yeah, just kind of reviewing the game. Ben Bramer, who we talked about last week, kind of, and we said that I think medically and physically he can play. I think it did kind of come out this week. There was like a bruised lung, which we kind of talked about, kidney, liver, it's kind of an internal organ that he just kind of shuts down for a second. It wasn't his head and it wasn't his neck, which is awesome. And he was able to play, and he scored the first touchdown on really a heck of a play, a good catch at about the 5-yard line, and then ran over a couple of guys and stretched out for a touchdown. So, just great for the team, great for the mental, because Iowa State's problems have been you get tackled at the 2-yard line, then you don't score a touchdown. And his will and his drive and just, reached out and scored that touchdown so they didn't have to, get it in from the 2-yard line, which has been such a struggle this year. And was able to score from 25 yards out, and then, kind of back and forth, and looked like they were going to lose. I mean, it looked like I bet there was about 10 minutes left in the game, maybe a little more, but TCU was up 20-10, and they were running for a big play, and Trey Bell came in and stripped it and got a touchdown. Stopped the touchdown, and they got the ball back, went down, scored, and then they got the punt return to take the lead, which they hadn't had a punt return for a touchdown since 2017. And as we talked about in the margins, there was always a fumble. There was a false start, not getting in from the 2-yard line the last 4 weeks. For what finally they scored touchdowns. Rocco Beck played better. He didn't play great. He was kind of not good for 3 quarters, but in the fourth quarter, a couple big run plays and a great, I think 3rd and 6 play. He hit Eli Green across the middle for about 20 yards and a big play not to force 4th down. And then the punt return, just making a play. Aiden Flora from Adele, ADM, Grew up a Hawkeye fan, I guess, but, walked on it at Iowa State, making a huge play. The biggest thing, and I've been critical of him because he doesn't catch the punt and he doesn't return a punt. He was one of the ones against BYU or against Arizona State. They kind of run together, but, dropped a pass right at him. They miss him. He's in at running back. That's not his fault. And he's running wheel routes and we miss him. Well, he's the third running back. They don't practice it a lot. But he made the play. And it just goes to show you, if you catch a punt and you try to go, good things happen. I just think, and Iowa does the same thing as Iowa State. They make the call before it's even punted. Like, you're just going to catch it and you're going to fair catch it or you're going to return it. And I understand that a little bit, but I don't. I'm like, sometimes you have to read the punt. Sometimes it's a high, great punt. Sometimes it's a little bit of a line drive. The line drive ones are the ones you want to return, I guess. But you can just see, and then the number one thing is you just got to go catch the punt, no matter what. But he finally did it, and just a great play. And Iowa State needed that. I kind of wrote on here, just to keep the program going in the right direction. There's been some people say it's a program defining win. Well, I don't know about that, but you start off 5-0 and then you lose 5 in a row. It's just disheartening, and it's hard to keep people engaged. And I've went on here the last few weeks and just kind of monologued about the state of Iowa State football and how it's disappointing and we're not playing well. But this is a win that you just needed to help the program and help the fan base. Off this week, playing Kansas for the last home game next week. If they had a loss last week, next week at Iowa State would have been, 33% full. I don't know, especially depending on the weather. If I hope both Iowa and Iowa State wishes there was a game this Saturday. It's supposed to be 72 degrees here. But
it's going to be raining in LA for the Iowa game.
Yeah, I heard that, like 62 and rain.
Yeah.
They can't get out of the rain. But with them winning, and then Kansas is not good. I mean, not that Iowa State's real good either, but it's you play well, you'll win the football game, and then you finish at Oklahoma State, who you should beat them because they're god awful. Well, that's 8 wins, and in the big scheme of Iowa State football, 8 wins is really, really good. But that's the standard that Matt Campbell has raised. That 8 wins isn't super exciting, and you'll go to the Liberty Bowl or back to Orlando to the Camping World Bowl or whatever it's called now. We always made fun of Iowa for going to the Outback Bowl every year. Well, Iowa State's kind of if they would go to Orlando again, that's like 4 out of the last 6 years they've been in Orlando. But that's the consistency. Now, it's not the thing with Orlando. It's not always the same bowl. They're 2 different bowl games in Orlando. There's the better bowl and then the not as good bowl, but and Iowa's played in both of them as well. But it just shows the program's better. And if a disappointing year is 8 wins, and that's kind of the new standard, which that's kind of the Iowa standard now, 8 wins. It's good season, but it's nothing. You get excited about 9, 10, 11, 12 wins. And Iowa State's approaching that. And that's a really good thing, but it's hard to swallow when, you get that losing streak, which you're not used to anymore. And we talked about, Arizona State, pretty good. BYU, pretty good. Cincinnati, pretty good. The Colorado one's the one that just, there's no reason for it. You should not lose to Colorado. They're awful. You could make an argument that I don't know if them and Oklahoma State play, but if they do, I don't know I think Colorado wins, but I wouldn't guarantee it. They could be the worst team in the Big 12. But Iowa State made them look really good that day.
Yeah, for Iowa State, start off 5-0 and then lose 4 straight. Like you said, it stops the bleeding, and then it brings into play, like you said, an 8-win season. They still got 2 more games to get that done. But yeah, for Iowa State, given the history when I was younger, you said it all perfectly. An 8-win season is still really good for an Iowa State program. So yeah, it's disappointing to have that 4-game losing streak. Like you said, Colorado's the big one there. There's another name that's not being mentioned for any of the big jobs right now is primetime Deion Sanders. And
I'm going to guess he retires and just tries to live. I hope.
Yeah.
Honestly, I hope that's what he does. He's battled all kinds of health things. He just needs to go back on TV and live life.
Yeah, we'll see if he comes back to Colorado for another year or two. This was a transition year, but we kind of talked about that anyway. Let's get back to Iowa State. Now they've got the bye week, you said, and then it's home versus Kansas, and then at Oklahoma State. So I'm sure Oklahoma State, they're going to try to play spoilers that final week, but Iowa State should beat them. I think getting that win at TCU for ISU is going to give them a little bit of a jolt to finish the season strong.
Yeah, I agree. They needed it just for the mental health of the fan base and the players and the coaches, because losing 4 games in a row isn't what happens in Iowa State anymore, and no one knows really how to react. I don't think 4 in a row had happened since they went 4-8 with Hunter Deckers, I think, and they might have lost 4 in a row in there. But obviously that was a transition year as well after Purdy, new quarterback, just lost, 5 NFL players that are all playing, which, speaking of Iowa State, kind of before we get to the NFL, how about the Iowa State Jets or the New York Cyclones, however you want to call it? They've won 2 in a row since they did all the trades. Kick return for a touchdown, Cyclone. Brees Hall, another big game. He's really good. That's not a surprise. 42-yard, reception for a touchdown, and then Will McDonald, 4 sacks in a game for them to win. So, and all those players were on that team, So it was one of those. Charlie Kohler's playing well. Brock Purdy isn't really playing this year, but the receivers at the Texans got 3 of them there. It's just.
Higgins had a touchdown this weekend, I believe, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's everybody's doing really well,
mm-hmm.
and that's the difference in Matt Campbell's program than Dan McCarney's or Paul. I can't remember his name is whatever. Gene Chizik. That was the one thing he did, and that's what Paul. I'm forgetting his last name, but he went to a couple of games with Gene Chizik's players. He was able to increase the recruiting, but NFL, it's fun to watch the NFL now as a Cyclone fan because you can find Cyclones. I do want to talk a little bit about, kind of just college football and the Big Ten. Indiana's win over Penn State, one of the best catches I've seen in a long, long time. 3rd down, Indiana needs it to keep their undefeated streak alive. Penn State's, and I've got a question about Penn State I'm going to ask you here in a few minutes before we move on to the NFL, but did Mendoza win the Heisman with that play?
It's going to be tough to beat. I mean, they should finish 12-0. Yep. Now, I forget, do they vote on the Heisman before the conference championship games?
I can't answer that. I would assume so, because it's probably that next weekend is the Heisman, and it'd be before the playoffs.
I forget, because him and Sayan obviously are going to probably most likely play each other in the Big Ten championship. And then, of course, you got Ty Simpson down at Bama. I think those are the 3 favorites right now. So, I mean, it gives them as good a chance as any, because that was a clutch drive. Like we said, Penn State firing the coach. There's still a lot of top 100 draft picks on Penn State. They still got something to play for. That's still one of the toughest stadiums in the country to play at. And that catch, it was an amazing catch. Gus Johnson couldn't even speak.
Oh, he sounded worse than I do with my voice. He lost it. It screeched. He went through puberty all in one thing. He lost it.
It was an all-time call and an all-time catch and throw. And I think it secured Mendoza too as the number 1 quarterback going into the draft, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But yeah, that's a phenomenal play. And to have an undefeated season, sometimes you got to have plays like that. When Iowa had the Ricky Stanzi year, they went into Michigan State and hit him to McNutt on the 4th and goal to win the game. I mean, sometimes you just, not every game is going to be a cakewalk for you, no matter how good you are.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, that's just exactly what happens. The good teams make plays to win, just like Oregon did against Iowa. the really good teams and the teams that win championships, win national championships, make plays when they have to. That's the difference. And that's where recruiting does matter, because in those situations, the best players make plays. You know, your 2-star walk-on doesn't make that play. The 4-star that you made better, that worked hard, that's going to be a top 3 round draft pick, those are the ones that make those plays.
Yeah, phenomenal play. And it was an all-time call, and that was fun to watch for sure.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Now I want you to listen to this, and I'm sure you know this, but I do not understand what is going on with TV and what is happening. But the CBS 2:30 game, do you know what that is this weekend?
CBS, is it the Iowa? Is it the Iowa one or no?
It is not. Iowa USC is on the Big Ten Network at 2:30. CBS game of the week, which growing up it was SEC at the time until this year. Game of the week is Michigan State versus Penn State. Neither team has a win in the Big Ten, and that is the game of the week. I do not understand what is going on. Now,
I don't have an answer for you on that one.
I do not understand. Is Penn State people still watching?
Well, Michigan State just got in trouble today. I saw they had to vacate a bunch of wins, and I didn't even know that. I hadn't even heard that. So
I don't understand what is. That's insane. They are 0-13 in the Big Ten between the two of them, and that is your CBS game of the week.
It should be the Iowa USC game. It should be.
I agree.
At least if you have to put the Big Ten game, it should be that one over that one.
Yeah, anybody.
Yeah, I had no idea about that. I got no theory on why that is.
Now, there must be no big games. Now, I'll be honest, the Big 12 this week, Iowa State doesn't play. The Big 12 doesn't have any good games either. And that is a little bit of the problem with these big conferences. There are weeks where good teams don't play good teams. And then there's seasons like, last year with the Big 12, Arizona State, BYU, Colorado, and Iowa State were all 7-2 in the Big 12, and none of them played each other. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't know why the Iowa USC game is not on CBS. That's a good game. I mean, that is a really good game. I'm assuming, this is my assumption, I don't know that, and I could be definitely wrong. Has to be some contractual thing that teams. Well, I know Iowa can't play a night game anymore. They've had too many. There's things like that go on. But I wonder if teams can only be on CBS or have to be on CBS. So, that would be my only thing. Like, everybody has to be on the NBC night game or the CBS big time game once a year or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
but there has to be some contractual thing, because there's no way that CBS with their first or second pick would take that game. I don't think, unless Penn State still outdraws everybody else for TV ratings.
I wouldn't think so on this week, but I'm guessing your theory is probably correct, where there's some, teams have to be on so many times, or who knows what. There has to be something like that going on, because Iowa USC is a much better game. Obviously, 2 ranked teams. USC still got a chance to get into the playoffs if they run the table. So, yeah, I don't know, but that is weird.
I just thought, what is the Big Ten doing? And we've sold our souls to the devil in TV broadcasts, and we're going to get to that here at the end of the podcast as well. I mean, we're all just getting it shoved right up us. I mean, that's just, consumers never win, and we always get the shaft. And it's continuing in the YouTube ESPN dispute. That was kind of my last thing. I wanted to just kind of rant on the Big Ten, and the Big Ten is bad. I don't care what the top is really, really good. I mean, Indiana, Ohio State, 2 of the best in the country. Oregon's right there. But Penn State, and then here's the other thing. Like Chris Hassel, who I love listening to on Iowa Everywhere, and he's a really good CBS guy. He still thinks Penn State's good. When is it going to be? They're not good. They haven't won a game in the Big Ten. They haven't beat a Power 4 team this year. They are not good. They might have good players, but they are not a good team. And I was listening. They're still ranked by the ESPN FPI in the top 25. It's like, what am I missing? They are bad. And we were having a discussion today, and Zach's like, "Oh, I know what it was. I put Penn State last in my Big Ten rankings that I put out today." Which I'm sorry about that. I moved Wisconsin from the bottom up, and I did not change their number to 18, so the number is a little bit off. So I am sorry about that, because Wisconsin upset Washington. So I thought Wisconsin was the worst team. Now I do think it's Penn State. And Zach was like, Penn State's not the worst team. I'm like, they don't have a win against a Power 4 team. They don't. How can you say they're not the worst team?
Yeah, I mean, they might be. I'd say the top 7 or 8 teams, the top half of the Big Ten is pretty damn good. Obviously, they're probably the Big Ten's got a good chance to win the national title again.
Oh, absolutely.
USC, Michigan's right in there, 7-2. Michigan ended their season really well last year with wins over Ohio State and Alabama in the bowl game. That's probably about as good as anybody finished that didn't make the playoff, at least. So, yeah, the top half's pretty damn good. The bottom half, you got your dreads of the league, of course. Penn State, I don't know where I'd rank them. I'd have to look at everybody's schedule. But, yeah, they've got a lot of NFL talent. We know that. But, as a team on the field, they just haven't put it together this year for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, they're turning into like Florida State last year and even this year. I mean, Florida State hasn't won an ACC game in like a year and a half, which is crazy to me. I mean, they lose to Boston College, they lose to everybody, obviously, except Alabama, which is probably the upset of the year. I don't know what happened there, and that's what first week, whatever happens. Is he going to keep his job at Florida State?
I don't know how he could, but again, it's another big. I think it's another big buyout. So I mean, it's going to come down to these schools. Some of these schools are going to have to stop giving these crazy contracts and these all this guaranteed money, but the agents and coaches keep getting it, so I can't blame them.
No. How about LSU? Have you read on LSU what they're trying to do? They're trying not to pay Kelly, and they're saying that Scott Woodward didn't have the authority to fire him. Like, he's not actually fired.
I've read some of the headlines. I've heard a little bit about it. It's a mess, and Brian Kelly's not taking any less or any deals, which I don't blame him. Feelings get hurt when there's firings and things like that happen, no matter how much money you've got. So, yeah, that's LSU's a bit of a mess. That's a messy situation right now.
I just don't know. I mean, I think it's a better job, but if I'm Lane Kiffin, I go to the Giants or I just stay home. Because he's going to be involved in that job now, isn't he?
The Giants?
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be up there. There's another job in the NFL. I'm gonna save it for when we get to the NFL talk. But that's Lane Kiffin's name's going to come up for every big job now.
Yeah. All right, let's transition to the NFL. My first question to you is, what is wrong with Buffalo?
Last year they overachieved. Last year was thought to be the retooling year for Josh Allen in this era of the Bills. And they overachieved. They got the AFC Championship game. This year, it looks like the reality of the roster is setting in. They're a little bit inconsistent on offense. They've got what appears to be a somewhat busted receiver in Keon Coleman, who they took a couple years ago, early in the draft with their first pick, I should say. And the defense has had some injuries and hasn't been playing up to par. So, yeah, the Bills, I've got them at 9. That's just out of respect out of Josh Allen. But, I definitely could see some teams or some people having them outside of the top 10 in power rankings. But, yeah, the Bills were supposed to win their division this year. Looks like the Patriots are probably going to run away with it. And that's the NFL for you. I mean, every year there's a couple surprise teams, a couple disappointing teams, and it happens every single year without fail.
Yeah, speaking of the Patriots, it's good to see them back. I mean, I'll be honest. I like watching the Patriots win, and I love it that Mike Vrabel is winning because he got the absolute shaft in Tennessee. He was really good. They just didn't have a good team around him, and they fire him, and they've sucked ever since. And he takes a year off,
mm-hmm.
and then comes back to where he played and was a successful player. And, there's an argument you made. They're the best team in the AFC right now.
Yeah, I've got them ranked as the best AFC team, as of right now. Now, they've had a pretty decent, easy schedule for NFL terms, but they did go down to Tampa and win. That's a really good one. So their young players are hitting. Drake May, Henderson, Will Campbell on offensive tackle. The free agents they brought in are doing well. So, and Vrabel's a great coach. I thought they could flirt with a wild card this year. I didn't think they'd win the division. So they're way ahead of schedule. And yeah, I'm glad to see Vrabel doing good. He maxed out there at the Titans, and the Titans right now, their front office is through NFL circles is kind of a laughing stock. So the Cam Ward pick I thought was going to help him out. Doesn't appear so. We'll see who they bring in for that job. And Lane Kiffin is not taking that one. I'll just tell you that right now. He's not leaving Ole Miss to go to the Titans. The Titans are going to get the 4th, 5th, 6th best option when it's all said and done.
They're going to get a guy that's going to last a year, maybe 2. Someone that we either a retread, would a John Gruden go there if he can't get any other job?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'd rather.
I don't think he's going back to the NFL anyway. So,
yeah. So I mean, it's just that job's. I don't know what you do with that job. It's really hard. The Bears come back again, 2 weeks in a row. Caleb made the play, made the throw. And then this week had the scramble to beat the Giants and to get Brian Dable fired, which was just a matter of time anyway. Was it interesting to hear that the Giants are going to let the GM make the hire and not fire him too?
Yeah, that's usually a recipe for disaster. So we'll see if that actually ends up happening or if they let him go at the end of the season. For the Bears, I know I only have them ranked 15, but the Bears are an ascending team. If you look at the team that I had ranked below them, the Steelers are a descending team to me.
Yep.
They can't run the ball. Their pass defense is atrocious, and it's only going to get worse, especially, I'll go quick on the Steelers here. I think the Steelers are going to miss the playoffs anyway. I think the Ravens are going to win that division. But if the Steelers do win their division and host a home playoff game, you can't run the ball. Unless your defense gets turnovers, it's not very good, considering under Steelers terms. And Aaron Rodgers is going to be old in the cold weather. We know quarterbacks that are old don't like the cold. Saw it with Favre during his last years, saw it with Peyton Manning, his final years in Denver. Now, Peyton was on a stacked team, one of the best defenses of all time. The Steelers do not have that. So I think the Steelers are going to miss the playoffs. And if they do get in, I think they'll get their butts whooped like they always do under Mike Tomlin the last 4 or 5 times they made the playoffs. Going to your Bears, they're an ascending team. They keep getting a little better each week. I don't want to say they're too much ahead of schedule, but right now it's going to come down to them or the 49ers most likely to battle for that 7 seed, the final playoff spot. And the 49ers have an easier schedule. The Bears have a tougher schedule, but the 49ers and Bears do play week 17, second to last week of the season. That could be for that final playoff spot. Because I think the Packers will get in, but the September champs, as I call them, they're flirting with missing as well. So
that's what, when I was reading your power rankings, I was going through there and I saw that, and then I put in the graphic, and it came up a little different when I made so I had to go back and change it, and I'm just like, and I had to I think I know who that is, but I wanted to make sure it was them, and I was gonna put the Packers in parentheses, but then I decided not to. I'm like, everybody can figure it out.
That's the fun of it. You got to let the Packers fans figure it out, since they won the Super Bowl and they traded for Micah. They've got the Packers have a broken quarterback right now, and when we were talking about Lane Kiffin, a surprise job, John Middlecoff brought this up during the summer. He read an article, and everybody got mad at him because he just talked about reading an article. LaFleur and Gutekunst are going to go into next year on the final years of their contract. Green Bay, like a lot of good organizations, don't typically let coaches and management go in with a lame duck year like the Cowboys did with Mike McCarthy. So if the Packers end up being a 6 or 7 seed again this year and get bounced in the first round of the playoffs, is Matt LaFleur on the hot seat? And could Lane Kiffin be the hot name out there? Because Lane Kiffin's agent, it's the job of the agent. They're paying attention to all the jobs that are open now and all the possibilities of jobs that will be open, next season. And a lot of these agents, they represent the same coaches. So I wouldn't be surprised if his agent has mentioned to him that it might be sort of a long shot, but maybe the Packers will be opened up next season for you.
Yeah, I'm assuming his agent is Jimmy Sexton, is the agent of almost every SEC coach and Nick Saban, and the problem is he's also the agent of all the ADs, and I think that is becoming a big problem. Is one guy or a couple guys, Trace Armstrong's another one, that they control everybody, and so obviously if you're the agent of the AD and you're the agent of the coach, well, you're on both sides of this, and so you're making money either way. So you're gonna get as good a deal as you can.
Yeah, there's a little conflict of interest there, but again, going back to the September champs, I wanted to poke a little fun at the Packers fans, and everybody that thought that they were ranked too low at 9 under my last power rankings. That looks pretty good. Yeah. I had the Steelers at 12. I saw Doug wasn't real happy about that. Well, I got the Steelers at 16 now, so I think they're fading. The Packers can get it turned around. They've got a young team. We'll see if that happens. But again, back to your Bears, they keep plugging out these wins. It's not pretty.
It doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be. They got to get the penalties cleaned up a little bit. They need some help on defense, which we'll talk about in the mock draft. But it does look like we've said this for like 4 weeks in a row now. The right coach and the right quarterback. If you get those two things right, everything else becomes a lot easier.
Oh, absolutely, they do. I mean, it is crazy at how simple everything can be when everybody's going the right direction. You got a coordinator that knows what they're doing. The quarterback is getting better and doing things the right way. I'm assuming everybody's on time for meetings now. Just things like that. And then you go to Eberflus, and he's down in Dallas now, where it's turned into a debacle as well. Shocker, right?
Yeah. What any other takeaways from my power rankings? What do you think of having the Chiefs at 5? I knew that had to piss some people off still, seeing them there,
right.
But
it was actually. You talk about your power rankings for a little bit. I'm going to try to pull it up here. I think I can. I'm going to try to pull it up and get it on the screen here.
Yeah. So no, I still had the Chiefs at number 5, even though right now they're the first team out of the playoffs. I think the Chiefs are going to get it turned around. Nobody's going to want to see the Chiefs coming to their place in the playoffs if the Chiefs are on the road. The Jags, I believe, are still the last team in the AFC. I think the Jags and the Steelers are going to fall out. I think the Chiefs and the Ravens are going to insert themselves into the AFC playoffs. We'll see if the Chargers can hang on. They've had a ton of offensive line injuries. Both their tackles out for the season. I think the Chargers might have the worst ranked offensive line according to PFF this year. So that was a big win for the Chargers to get over the Steelers, because they got the tiebreaker over them, and both those teams could be fighting for that final number 7 playoff spot in the AFC. So that was a big win for the Chargers. As far as the power rankings go, I mean, I had to put the Rams number 1 just because of Stafford. I think he's on pace to throw for just shy of 50 touchdowns this year. We've seen him and McVay win a Super Bowl before, so I had to give them the number 1 spot, even over the Eagles, who beat them earlier this year. Eagles have some offensive problems right now. Barkley's not running like he did last year. Obviously, A.J. Brown went live, I think, on the internet last night and told everybody to drop him from their fantasy team. So A.J. Brown's definitely getting traded in the offseason before the draft. He will be on a different team. I would bet a lot of money on that right now if I could. In fact, when I get off here, I'm going to look to see if there's any odds. A.J. Brown will be traded. Any other takeaways from the power rankings? Did you have any real problems with anything?
No, I didn't. They were all pretty good. I'm not able to get it like I wanted to. I don't think. I was working at it. I need a dual screen, I think, set up, and I do not have that. I need to set that up, but I don't have it set up. So for those of you that are listening to us and kind of wondering what we're talking about, if you go to our Instagram page or Facebook or Twitter, I put those up there. Every week we try to do, he does his rankings every couple weeks. I put up my Big 12 and Big 10 rankings. And then this week he put up as well. And I wasn't able to make a graphic. It was a little bit too big to all get on like one place. So I just kind of I took a picture of it actually.
I think that's better.
And that way it makes more sense, because when I start making a graphic out of it, it kind of jumbles it a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
so just kind of follow along those, and we do appreciate those that do follow along, comment. We like to have those conversations. And I know, like you said, Doug wasn't happy with the Steelers, and that's always fun to do. I love giving Doug crap too about that stuff.
Yeah, and the Chiefs at 5. The Chiefs are not moving out of the top 10 until I'm not moving the Chiefs out of the top 10 unless they miss the playoffs. And I'll tell you right now, if the Chiefs miss the playoffs, I still might pick them to win the Super Bowl, even though it's not. So just warning everybody on that. For the for the mock draft, I think what you did, taking a screenshot, is the easiest way to do it, just because there's so much text on it. Let's talk a little bit about mock drafts. What I'm going to say here, you know this already, but maybe for new listeners. So a mock draft, first of all, I use the current draft order just because that's the easiest way to do it right now. And I think it makes it fun because that'll change over time. So we're going with the current draft order. And the thing about this mock draft compared to one that I'll do in February, March, or April is, say, a dozen of these names won't even be on here because we don't know if these players are going to declare for the draft yet. It's best guess because a lot of these guys are underclassmen. So especially the 3 quarterbacks going in the top 5, I could easily see one of them coming back for another year, if not 2. So that's something to pay attention to. And really, it's not about getting the right player with the correct team, even though that's always good to do. It's trying to get names that are popular right now, and then I tried to fit them with team needs as best as I could, given their draft position.
Yeah, you really, and even like a Mel Kiper and Todd McShay, it's team needs, it's player, but they're looking for the player and roughly the draft spot. Like, if you think he's a 20th best player, but he's drafted 23rd, but number 20, 21, and 22 went completely different position because they didn't want him or need him or whatever, then you are really close. I mean, and that's how they grade themselves as well. I think that's how you know where you're doing your, and again, trades change everything. And then you've got it, the draft order as today. Well, if for some reason the Titans would go win 4 games the rest of the way, well, that changes the draft order. I just, things like that. Miami goes on a run now. They took the Papa shot out of the locker room, and now they're going to win football games or whatever,
Yeah. Like you said, with, for example, the Titans and the Saints right now are 1 and 2.
Yeah. Right.
The Titans may want to trade down and get a bunch of picks, which I wouldn't disagree with. And the Saints at number 2, I'm not so sure they'll take a quarterback. Tyler Shuck looked pretty good against the Panthers. And again, he was a top 40 pick. So there's no guarantee they're going to take a quarterback. I gave him Mendoza for right now, but we'll see how Tyler Shuck plays the rest of the year. And again, I'm not going to do any trades. It's too hard to project that. I did, obviously there's some teams with 2 first rounders because of last year's trades. Those are already done. So was there anything any picks that you saw that would interest you, Big 12 guys? Obviously I got your Bears taking an edge rusher out of Auburn. He's actually projected to go a little higher than that, but I had him falling a little bit.
Yeah, just as long as it's on the line, offense or defense, I think that's what the Bears need. So I'm perfectly good with that. And I don't know Tyler Shuck. I've said this before, but it's just amazing. He was Oregon's quarterback when Brock Purdy beat them in the Fiesta Bowl. That's how long he was in college.
He's an older player. There's no doubt about it.
Well, he's the same age as Purdy. They played in high school against each other and everything. It's just crazy.
I think he's older than Purdy because Purdy is still technically 25. I think Shuck's 26 already.
Okay, so same class.
Yeah. But I mean, Purdy's still technically younger. So that's that's a little interesting there. I've got everybody in Iowa's favorite player, Caden Proctor, going 10 to the Rams.
That might be low. I mean, he might go above that.
He might. I think most people have him 2, 3, or 4 as far as tackles go.
Right.
Just going down the line a little bit. The Kansas City Chiefs, I gave Jeremiah Love. That's a fun pick for now. I don't think they're going to get him because I think they're going to go into the 20s,
right.
And I don't think he'll be there. But it does feel a need, and he's a hell of a player.
Yeah, he would help the Chiefs a lot.
Mm-hmm. The 49ers was a tricky one. I got him taking, an offensive tackle from Utah. Shanahan's admitted they don't value offensive linemen like other teams do, because with his blocking scheme, they feel like they can get it the best out of second and third round picks, but they've got to start investing in the O-line. So that one might be a little rich there. Just kind of looking through here a little bit. I had the Rams with their actual pick at 27 taking Jaden Mayava from USC.
Okay.
Again, you get the fifth-year option that give you a little bit of a plan after Stafford. Stafford looks like he can play a couple more years right now. So maybe they won't take a quarterback this year, but Jaden Mayava is one I'd pay attention to that might come up the ranks. And just trying to look to see if there's any other surprises or anything. I did have 2 Iowa players going toward the end of the first round. I've got Logan Jones, the center for Detroit. They do need a center. And the thing about the Lions is 2 things. They've proven that they'll take players in the first round that most people won't. They took Jack Campbell, linebacker, Jahmyr Gibbs, running back. Even though all the draft experts say you're not supposed to do that, the Lions don't care. They take the best player who they think is going to fit, and they like Iowa players. Yep. So that Logan Jones, I think, fits right in, even though that's a little high for him. And then Dunker, I have him going to Eagles at 31. Most people do have him ranked about the 5th or 6th offensive tackle, which does bring him into play for a first-round pick. We saw 8 offensive linemen go in the first round last year, I think. Okay. In my mock draft, I've got 7 right now. So Dunker, I think, is going to be in play for a first-round pick. Logan Jones might be a little rich. I wanted to throw him on there for a little bit of fun, but it does fit Dan Campbell and the Lions' pedigree of what they've been doing in the draft.
Very good. Yeah, and we do appreciate that. And I know you love mock drafts more than anybody I know. So whenever you want to let those do one and put it out, we'll put it out on our socials. They're fun. They're just fun to talk about. And
it's really just to see the names that are hot right now. And that way on Saturday, when you're watching some of these teams, you can be like, oh, okay, there's a couple guys here that are projected to go high. And then you can pay attention to them a little bit and see, do they play well? Do they not? And again, this mock draft is going to look way different in February, March, and April, but right. I plan to do one every month until the draft.
Sounds good. Awesome. Anything else? Dayball got fired. Not a surprise. Any names? Any NFL names? I should say. College guys could come up. Not a surprise. But
Belichick.
Well, I did hear that back 25 years after. It probably should have been him or could have been him. I don't know. They've actually won a couple games in North Carolina now, so I don't know.
Yeah. No, I don't think the Giants would bring in Belichick now at this point. He's just his last few drafts and years there in New England, he couldn't get offense right. And they need – the thing about the Giants is, man, they have a ton of good players on defense. I think there's a lot of defensive coordinators in the NFL that would love to be the defense coordinator for the Giants because they have underperformed. And the thing with Brian Daboll is, this is going to sound weird to say, I think Brian Daboll is the most overrated bad coach in a long, long time. Everybody keeps saying he's this great coach. He's going to get another chance. He didn't get along with McDermott in Buffalo. He didn't get along with a lot of his coaches in the New York Giants. And he's been terrible ever since the first year. I don't think he's that good. He might be a good offensive coordinator.
Right.
He could go back to Buffalo in that position. Or
I heard that there's people in Buffalo that want him back.
Yeah, and he's a tough guy to get along with. But maybe the Lions could be in play because Dan Campbell's taken over for Johnny Morton, play calling duties. Maybe Daboll could end up there as an OC. Maybe next season, of course. But Big Mike, Lane Kiffin, Kubiak's another name. Jesse Minter with the Chargers is going to get brought up. Those are some names that are the Giants.
This is a little bit out of the box, but would he be in play for any of those SEC jobs? Being a former Alabama offensive coordinator under Saban.
Are you talking about Daboll?
Yeah.
Well, I saw he was seen today, I think it was, with a Penn State sweatshirt on. So people are wondering about.
I mean, or even Penn State. I mean, would he go back to college? I mean, obviously, everybody wants the next Saban. Now, I don't think he's the next Saban, but he knows how Saban did things, being the offensive coordinator for a year or two there.
Yeah, everybody's just assuming he's going to get another head coaching job. I don't know if he's going to get hired as a head coach, even at the college level right now. I think there's a lot of things behind the scenes with Brian Daboll that maybe the media doesn't know about. I've heard too many stories that he's just a guy that's real tough to get along with. So if he goes back to college as a head coach, I don't think he's going to get a top job. could he end up at Virginia Tech or one of those type of schools maybe? But I don't think he's getting Florida or LSU or something like that.
Okay. Maybe in Auburn?
Maybe, but I think they could do a little bit better. I think they could go after John Gruden again, who I've mentioned, since the season started. I think Auburn and Arkansas are in play for Gruden. Yeah, we'll have to see. I think there's some stuff behind the scenes with Daboll that he's not maybe as well liked by a lot of people, which, there's plenty of coaches that run hot and are, they don't get along with everybody.
Right.
And I think Daboll falls under that category.
You can kind of see he's got a little red to him. You can see it.
Yeah, and they've had so many blown leads and the bad record and him not getting along with coaches and then him going into the tent, with Jackson Dart. And it's been a really bad look. But, whoever does take the Giants job, there's some talent there with Neighbors, Scatterby coming back, Andrew Thomas at left tackle. They got to get their right tackle figured out, which, again, I had addressed in the mock draft. You've got Dart, who looks promising. I mean, it's a small sample size. But, again, those resources they have on defense, I mean, Spagnuolo, Vic Fangio, Brian Flores, they would love to have those defensive players. So the Giants have underwhelmed. I think it's a decent job. I will be interested to see what they get. And I think Mike McCarthy's the fit, but most NFL coaches don't get 3 chances.
Right.
Even though he did really well at both
right.
Green Bay, and it's not like he went 3 straight years of losing records. I mean, I'd go after Mike McCarthy, even though it's boring.
Yeah, but at least it'd be some stability. Stability is huge, and just he knows how to do NFL coaching. The biggest thing is who you bring with you. Who can he bring? I think Brian Flores would be a great guy too. Now he's got that lawsuit going on. I don't know if he can be a head coach yet, but if I'm Mike McCarthy, I make the call to Brian Flores. Hey, come with me.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if they have any relationship or not, but yeah, I want the best D coordinator because they do. Like they got Dexter Lawrence. You just go down the list. They got good linebackers. They got a good safety. I mean, they got good players on defense.
They do, and they've really underwhelmed. So it's a pretty decent job. I mean, again, the Cowboys are a little bit of a mess right now. Washington has come back down to earth. Their quarterback's hurt. So, of course, the Giants have been bad for it feels like 10 years now. So maybe they'll just be bad another 5 years. I don't know.
All right. Anything else for the NFL for you?
Yeah, I think that's good enough for the NFL for now.
Okay. Last thing I want to talk about, YouTube TV versus Disney / ESPN ABC. We were talking before. You do Hulu Live, so you're already paying Disney because Hulu is a Disney product. So it is not affecting you. So you get everything. It is not affecting me. I have Dish Network, and then also with my Verizon package, I get the ESPN Plus, Disney Plus package. So it's not affecting me either. But I know a lot of people have YouTube TV, and it really sucks. And you want to pick a side. I don't know which you're talking about. 2 huge companies. It's Google, and people forget that YouTube TV is Google. That's who owns it. Versus Disney, 2 of the biggest companies in the world, fighting over money. And Keith Murphy put on a thing like he's a YouTube TV subscriber, and you're getting a $20 credit, but you have to reply to an email and fill out a bunch of crap instead of just crediting the bill. Because and then I was listening to somebody else like the Menards thing. Well, you can get 11% off everything, but you got to fill out the paperwork, tape the receipt to it, mail it in. It's going to come back 6 weeks later after you forgot you did it. You're going to get a check for $27.92. And a lot of people aren't going to do it. So they're crediting $20, but 1 out of every 5 people do it, 1 out of every 10. So they're still going to make a crap ton of money off of it. I don't know who's right. The issue, overall, Disney has had this fight and ESPN for whether it's Mediacom or it doesn't matter what It is, but ESPN charges a lot of money. A lot of your cable bill is simply for ESPN. Has been for years and years and years. This is not a new thing, but people want ESPN, so they're willing to pay for it. Google must just finally be saying, heck with it, we're not paying it. And they're big enough that their bottom line doesn't get affected. But if this continues over time, and they're lucky that they only have the Monday Night Football game is all that's on ESPN in the NFL. If Sunday Night Football was on ESPN, I think this would have been solved. Because you start messing, or like when Thanksgiving comes, if the Cowboys were playing on ESPN, it would get solved. People would have a fit if you couldn't watch the Cowboys on Thanksgiving or Detroit. But I do understand ESPN's side in this. They paid the rights for all these games. They own the property. So if you want the property, you pay what they say. So I do understand Disney/ESPN side to this. I don't know when it's going to end, and it sucks for everybody involved. It's two big companies, and I can't remember who it was that said this. I listened to too much stuff, but in the last 20 years, has our viewing gotten better? The answer to that is no. You can watch more games, but the true viewing experience isn't any better than 20 years ago. And we're all spending more money now than we ever have on TV just to watch sports.
Yeah, we spoke about last week. It's, the quality, the pictures obviously better and all the information that you get, but it's a pain in the butt. I mean, for Iowa and Iowa women's basketball, what I do now is I just look each week. Okay, what channels? Because usually they play 2 games a week, call it.
Yep.
Okay, so one's on Big Ten Network and one's on whatever, Peacock or whatever it is. But you get, first of all, you gotta find out what different net or streaming platforms all these are on.
Yep.
And then you got to remember, okay, do I have it? Oh, yeah, I do. What's my username and password? Yep. Oh, I forgot. Send me an email. Send you a verification code to your phone. Okay, $6.99 a month or $10.99 a year. Yeah, sign me up. And
yep.
Yeah, that's just it's a pain in the ass. And yeah, I've been lucky since I have Hulu. I haven't really noticed it, and I haven't been paying attention as much just because it hasn't affected me. And then, of course, I'm on the road all the time, so
yep.
Hotels typically have it. If I go to the gym, I can usually watch it. So I've been fortunate under that aspect. But yeah, I mean, coming back home for Thanksgiving and Christmas, I may have to log into my Hulu, depending
yep.
on where I'm going and who I'm with and where we're watching games at. Because yeah, this you would have thought this would have been resolved already, but it's really dragging out.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's this long, but you're talking 2 big companies. When you get the Mediacoms and they're not near as big a company, so they can't wait. They go lose 100,000 subscribers, they feel it. Well, Google right now, 100,000, they might not feel it so much just because they're such a diverse and big company. But hopefully it gets figured out. But and then the real thing that, like, ESPN, it's not great what they're doing is a lot of people feel like they're just trying to get people to go to their app. And I think it's like $30 a month where you get everything, which in the big scheme of things, that's kind of a lot of money. But for everything that they would have, it's probably not that bad. Because I think it is Disney Plus. I mean, I think it's everything, $30 a month. I don't know what I pay for sure. It's actually on my Verizon bill, or, it's with my Verizon package. I might get that for half price or whatever. I can't remember what it is, but it's just on the Verizon bill. So,
yeah, it'd be nice if we could just go back. And you spoke about this last week too, with all these different streaming platforms. Changing the channel can be a pain in the butt. It happens on Hulu too, where I'll be watching something and I'll click to go to something else, and then that channel will disappear. Like if a game's on,
right?
Iowa, Oregon, and I click out on my TV to go check a score real quick, during halftime, and I go back to my main screen, and Iowa, Oregon has just disappeared. So then I've got to go to the search bar and type in CBS. It's just kind of a pain in the butt compared to what we grew up with.
Yeah.
When we were real young, you had 5 or 6 channels, all you had, and then of course cable and satellite came along, and then you had your guide, which was easy to use.
Yep.
But it's all the different streaming networks and this whole thing and passwords and usernames and emails and codes to your phone, and you forget that you signed up for something, and yeah, it's not ideal right now.
No, and it's not going to get any better. Apple's going to get involved here pretty soon, I think, and that's one I don't have. But yeah, I mean, I think I said this last week, but I think Iowa State basketball is on 7 channels, 7 different platforms this winter. And they were on ESPN Plus on Monday night, or ESPNU. That was a good game. Speaking of, let's hit that. Iowa's looked good. Iowa State had a big win Monday night against Mississippi State. Won by 19 points, scored 96 points. They're pretty good. They're ranked 16th right now. The women won tonight, big time. They're ranked 15th or 16th as well. So
I saw Crooks had 42, I think, tonight.
Yeah, might have finished with 43. I think it was a career. That's the most points ever for a Cyclone. So, she had 43, and I don't know what they finished with, but I think she had 43, and Valpo had 41. With
pretty good 1-2 punch there.
With like 8 minutes left. So, yeah, it was. When you outscore the opponent yourself in the amount of time you played, that's pretty good.
Yeah, no. College basketball for Iowa and Iowa State's really good right now.
Yep.
I did catch the end of that Iowa State game. I didn't even know it was on. It randomly, I just saw it was on, and I saw they were up like 25 or 30 points toward the end. So, yeah, no surprise that Iowa State's good. I know before the season, I think they're like 50-1 to win the national title, or 40-1. I thought about throwing maybe $10 on them. I forgot to, but it's no surprise. I mean, Iowa State's going to be near the top of the Big 12, kind of like they are every year. Just I'd be surprised if they're not.
Yeah, it's one of those. They're going to be, 1 through 5 in the Big 12, I would assume. Just a couple losses here or there, and with so many teams now, there's tiebreakers and ties, and you finished in the standings. You're number 3, but when you get to the Big 12, tournament, you're the 6th seed because of tiebreakers, because 4 teams finished at 14-4 or whatever it is. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy. But you beat the teams you need to beat. And then you need to, you win the home games, and you try to pick 1 or 2 off on the road. And then all of a sudden you're, 21-7 and ready to go.
Yeah. I think, is Iowa's next game against Xavier?
Might be. I think is that Sunday, or is it might be Friday night, or is it?
I think
Friday
it's one of the two. Xavier is one of those teams. I don't know if they're any good this year, but growing up, they always made the tournament. They were always like a 7 or a 10 seed in the NCAA tournament. So I assume it'll be a good test for Iowa.
Yeah, it's a lot like Mississippi. It's your first game against a team that has a pulse. That's how I say. It's like Iowa State next plays like Stonehill College or some. I don't even. They'll win by 100, but then they go. I mean, then they go to Vegas and play St. John's and Creighton. So it is what it is. So
yeah, basketball season's heating up, and I know each week that goes on from here on out, we'll probably start talking a little bit more basketball, especially once college football regular season ends, and we have that little bit of a break before the playoffs start. That'll probably really be heavy basketball and NFL kind of.
Well, yeah, because that'll be so. I think the championship games are like December 6th. So selection day will be the 7th. So yeah, you'll have, and then the playoffs are the 19th and 20th. So you have 10 days there or so, 12 days where the Cy-Hawk game isn't right in there. And yeah, you're just finishing up before finals, and the NFL is really heating up at that time. So yeah, this is obviously Saturday you watch your Cyclone football game or Hawkeye football game, and then last night Monday night the men played, tonight the women played. Same thing for the Hawks. Wednesday night the women play, Friday night the men play. So you're getting your laundry playing 3 times a week or 4 times a week right now. So that's what's fun about me.
Yeah, it's every night there's something on, and if you're a wrestling fan, I'm not, but you got wrestling going on too. Yep. So I mean, and that's just another channel to find on whatever streaming network you're using.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, Trev. Great talking. Nice, long conversation tonight. Lots of things to talk about, but a little bit of crossover season. So that's kind of the way it goes. And we'll talk next week. We'll see if the Hawks can pull it out. And I would say sunny Southern California, but it does not sound like it's going to be sunny Southern California. It's going to be wet Southern California. But I don't know when the last time they would have played in the Coliseum. It's not the Rose Bowl at UCLA where they played over their history. I would guess they've not played in the Coliseum ever, or if they have, we're talking once, maybe twice.
Yeah, it's got to. I don't think in the 2000s at all. Definitely not, because they lost him. They played him twice in bowl games.
Yeah, so they played USC, but not at the Coliseum.
Right.
They played them twice in bowl games in the last, 2002, in the Orange Bowl. So actually, like January 1st, 2003. But and then in the Holiday Bowl, 5 years ago, 4 years, whatever it was.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, they had a nice win there. But yeah, it's 100% chance of rain. Last I looked before we got on, so we'll see if that favors Iowa. But yeah, it's a fun matchup. Hopefully, we come in next week and we can talk about another Iowa State victory, and then Iowa getting back on track and maybe pulling the upset and ruining USC's chance to get in the playoffs.
Well, Iowa State won't. Iowa State doesn't play this week, so we won't have Iowa State. They're hopefully healing up and getting a few guys healthier. We're just so hurt, and that's a whole another discussion we could have. That I don't know if it's the nutrition or the strength or something's not going right there. We got way too many guys getting hurt every year, seems like. So, all right, Trev, we'll talk to you next week.
All righty. Have a good night.